which I have been getting a lot of heat on my review of this on TikTok and Instagram.
Welcome to Book Talks, where we talk about books, drama, and our bookish opinions. Today we'll be doing our July reading wrap-up. For more content from us, you can find us at Literary Liberation around the internet. I'm your co-host, Kristen. You can find me at TensTBR on all social media platforms.
And my name is Mariah, and you can find me at Hungry Rye on all social media platforms.
And we are currently still raising money for Code Pink, so there is a link in the description to donate to that.
What a month. What a month. It was a very busy month.
Yeah. For you were traveling.
Traveled all the way to
country.
Ohio. I know, we're beating a dead horse, bringing it up again. It was a lot. It was a lot. You just had gotten back from vacation, then went on another one.
Yeah. Well, I went on vacation in June, though, but then my next was because it was all at the beginning of July. Like, my vacation was at the end of June, but then we went to Ohio at the beginning of July. So
yeah, it all kind of like back to back. I was curious how this was going to affect our reading stats, but then I was very surprised when I got to my little page and I was checking out and I was like, oh wait, I didn't do too shabby.
Yeah, I read 7 books this month, which was the exact same as last month. So
I read 12, which was up 2 from the previous month.
That's good. That's about what pace you have to be on for HRCYED too, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, more throughout this episode as well.
Do you want to say what the full acronym
is? Well, HRCYED is the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do, and we'll go more in depth in that whenever we talk about our corresponding books. We've mentioned it before. We'll probably link it below if you really care about it, but it's just the reading challenge that we're going to be doing from July this year to July next year, so we'll be talking about it for a while.
Yep. There's a lot to go over, which I think we both put them with the books that we have that like started, because like this challenge started on July 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the books that we read may not have counted up to a certain point. So if we're not saying like what bingo square those are going into, it's probably why.
Yes. Well, but this month my average rating was 3.84 or 3.83 stars, which is down 0.24 stars from last month. So I was enjoying my books less this month, which I think there's a couple reasons why, because there's a few specific books that I think drag down the rating.
My average rating was 3.65 stars, which was up 0.07 stars from the previous month. So it's about the same. And I imagine this is because all the books that we're reading, prepping for the Ohio or Columbus, Ohio book festival that was happening. So that we were picking a lot of varieties, a lot of book authors that we don't really know of. And I did notice that like that affected the previous month. It affected this month. I think that's why it's not so high.
So, well, because we are reading out of our comfort zone and what our typical genres are. So then hopefully this next month we will have some higher ratings. But I read 2,678 pages, which is actually 27% more than last month, which I think because like all the books that I read were like really long. Like I was reading some chunky books. Like I think like over half of my books were over 500 pages long.
Damn. You were really into... We're not including all of those stats. If this is your first month you're listening in, that is something that we save till like the very end of the year, because there's a lot to go over with reading stats, especially with the different books that we read. If we don't have any overlap, it would make this... We could sit here for 3 hours talking about it.
Yeah.
So if you want that... I mean, you can comment it. Maybe we can add like one more stat. But I don't know. I feel like we already have so much going on.
I think we're probably fine. And then if you really care, then tune in January 1st of next year.
Or better yet, follow us on Storygraph.
Yeah, you can also do that.
You can lurk in the shadows.
Hungry
I read 3,542 pages, which was up 735. I didn't do the percentage. I just threw the number in there. It's up. We're up. More books were read, pages are up.
I didn't do the percentage. It gives you the percentage on the Storygraph little graphic that it makes for you. That's why I always get my percentage.
I thought you were manually... I just looked.
No. No, whenever
Well,
because I make my graphic every month and
damn.
it
So
puts it on there for you. It's a
it's
pro feature, I
August 2nd
think.
and I'm just learning. I am a pro member. I just didn't think to look
Well,
at
that's what
that.
I do because I already made it. And then, but my average time to finish a book was 13 days, which is 7 days slower than last month. And there is definitely a culprit for this specifically that I will, technically two culprits that I'll discuss more, but one more major one.
Yeah, I finished a lot faster. My average time to finish a book was 4 days. And this was calculated based on how fast you finish a book based on when you start it, not just like the frequency of you finishing books in the story
Yes.
graph calculation. So that was
It
4 days
adds up
faster. And I think,
all of the books you read.
yeah, so I think a lot of it was a lot of audiobooks because I got quite a few from Libro FM this month that I was very interested in listening to. And those count
Hmm.
as reading because audiobooks count towards literacy and reading.
Believe it or
So if you don't
not.
like that, we're 5 minutes in, fuck off.
I mean, also, too, not to mention, like, with audio specifically, most people that listen to audiobooks, like, they've studied, like, your brainwaves, and they say that you actually usually typically comprehend more by listening.
Yeah, even with a tandem read, whatever. I've just been really
Mm-hmm.
enjoying some audiobooks, and it's challenging me in my ability to extract more than just having a book with words in front of me where I can glaze over. I really have to work on my listening. I don't know about you. This might be
Active
a little off
listening.
track. I think that my ability to listen to people's conversations have improved significantly more since I started listening to more audiobooks.
I don't know if that's necessarily true for me, because I've already been, like, a listener, I think. Because I get really frustrated when people don't listen to me, so I've always been a listener.
Maybe it's very anecdotal. It might help. I'm sure
Maybe.
there will be studies on that coming out in the future, but we will not delay. We're going to provide the books that we read and then short summaries, spoiler free summaries specifically, and then our review of them.
Small
That's
review.
what we're going to do. Very small, very quick, because we do have a lot to get through. Because I had 12, you have 7, that's 19 books. That's a lot to get through. And we do run
Mm-hmm.
out of voice. I don't know about you, but sometimes when we hit like the hour mark, I can feel the crackles forming.
Not me. I don't have that problem.
So the first book that I ended up finishing, I finished while we were in Ohio, and it is The Dragon Wakes with Thunder by KX Song because she was at the Columbus Book Fest. We attended her panel, but this is the second half of the Dragon Spirit duology, and I don't want to say too much about it because it is part of duology. So anything that I say about characters, it could spoil the first one. So if you were curious about reading it, I'm just going to give you some very like big themes, but I thought it was good. There's definitely a lot of slow parts, a lot of court politics in the beginning. That's not my cup of tea. So if you really like that, I think you'll enjoy this. But I think the duology as a whole does a really good job of exploring like addiction, power, kind of like ego, love, and kind of discovering who you are because she is a very young main character because this is a Mulan retelling, but more true to the Chinese mythos. And I felt like I learned a lot about Chinese mythology and also I really enjoyed the magic system. Like it was fun. But I did end up just giving it like a 3.5 star. It wasn't my favorite, but I enjoyed it overall and I would recommend it to people because I can't like trash it for something that's just like a personal preference, you know? Like it
Mm-hmm.
still has its perks. It's just not my 5-star read.
Yeah, I totally get that. Well, the first book I ended well, and then that one did not count towards HRCYED because you've been like because HRCYED technically started on July 7th, I want to say. So it's like if you finish like anything that you finish before then doesn't get tracked pretty much. So my first book that I read was When the Revolution Comes by Chris Smalls, which I listened to that as an audiobook. And I read that because obviously Chris Smalls was at the Columbus Book Fest and we got to listen to his panel, which was a really great panel. I think it was my favorite panel that we went to. But When the Revolution Comes, it's like a braided memoir where you follow Chris Smalls as he's like unionizing Amazon, growing up, and like learning about workers' rights and stuff. It's a great call to action, I think, but I do think that this is more intro to like leftist reading rather than someone who's more well read really needs to pick this up. I think it's good for like a lot of warehouse workers and things like more of like the casual working class that don't really know too much about like organizing or anything like that. I think it's great for them, but I didn't necessarily come away with anything new. But I did think like I like the way Chris Smalls wrote and everything. That I think it was a very well done memoir, but it's just not like a perfect book. So I give it 4 stars. But I do think this is something that I'll recommend to like people that I know that don't really read like theory or anything like that. Where I think this is a great introduction. I think, and I know
And I
Mariah read
concur
it
with that because I read it the
last
previous
month.
month. So
Yeah.
if you want my thoughts on it, that's where it is. But I agree. Okay. I read Dissolving Classroom by Junji Ito. This is a collection of short stories that are centered around this brother and sister duo, and they're really weird. And there's weird stuff happening to the people around them, like their brains are melting out of their ears and they're just like dissolve. Like it does exactly what it says. People are dissolving. So I had originally DNF'd this, I think in 2025, and it just didn't spark anything in me. But I saw a physical copy of this, and I had planned on potentially doing this one for the second chances and hidden gems part of HRCYED. So I did it. I just committed. I read it on the plane back from San Francisco to Southern Oregon, and I was correct. I love being right sometimes. I knew it in my don't. I don't think I like his newer work. The artistry
Mm-hmm.
is beautiful. Like it has like that very classic, distinct, like his style is so present, but like none of the short stories were giving anything. They just felt very like they're there. I don't know. It was kind of like a nothing burger.
I think
So
that's the thing with like I don't like short stories most of the time just because it never gives you enough time to explore the themes that you want it to explore, in my opinion.
yeah, it's just weird because like they're interconnected. So where you have somebody like Tomei or Uzumaki, there's like short stories, but then there's like an underlying plot. It's kind of like how Supernatural is, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
the TV show, like where each one is like its own story, but there's still like a story
Yes.
going on in the background. It's kind of like that. But this one, they just there was nothing really. It was stupid. Sorry, I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars. I don't know if I said that.
The next book I read, which Mariah brought for me to read specifically because Sarah Gailey was again at the Columbus Book Fest, but we didn't even see them, I don't think. So, but it was Eat the Rich by Sarah Gailey, which is their graphic novel that follows a woman named Joey who's going to meet her boyfriend's family for the first time, and they have a unique diet, is what I'll say if you don't know anything about it. Because it is, I think I read it in like I don't know 30 minutes or something. Like I read it really fast, so I do think it's worth your time to read it if you haven't read it. I thought the art was really good in it. I did like the art style, but I'm not a big graphic novel person in the first place because a lot of the times what I've noticed whenever I read graphic novels, I just read like the speech bubbles and then I don't look at the art and then I'm like, oh wait, I should probably be looking at the art while I do that because I just don't. Um, and I think some of the relationships that end up developing, I'm not going to spoil it, but one of the like main things that happened towards the end, I thought it kind of came out of nowhere with no like true build up. What I was looking
I
for, so
completely agree.
yeah. So I mean, I thought this was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I think the politics, like they're kind of there, but like it's not nothing to really sink your teeth into. It's just like oh, this is a really cute little easy read to read, but it's nothing like crazy. And I did put this in the food pyramid HRCYED because it's got meat on the cover, so it's under the protein section, is what I thought.
Delicious.
Yeah.
I finished The Subtle Art of Folding Space by John Chu. We went to this. He was on the same panel as KX Song, but I finished this when I got home. I had to copy and paste a summary of this because this book is really hard to describe. But it's like I guess I didn't do a good job copying and pasting it, so I guess I'm gonna wing it. Um, you have this main character whose mother died and the sister is like blaming her, but also the reason that like they're upset is because they kind of broke some laws of quantum physics. So there's like I don't know, it's really confusing. It's very hard to describe. You can tell like it's very intentional with the science, but it's also kind of like cozy, and it's not like sciency enjoyable like Project Hail Mary perhaps is, but it was just a
Mm-hmm.
lot. I liked the bits about the family, like the familial dynamics. I think this could have worked as like a lit fic. I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more, but there's just with the skunk works and like the different parallel universes, I don't no fucking clue how it works. And that could be a me problem. Another one of those things where I'll give it like a 3-star rating. I can't knock it for my inability to enjoy it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not a, I don't think it's a 5-star read.
Yeah.
Oh, and I put this in the HRCYED titicular counting. I can't remember which number it was, but I had nowhere else to put it.
It had a lot of title, like words in the title.
Yep.
Well, the next book I read then was Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, which I did this as a tandem read with the audiobook and the physical book. And this is basically, if you don't know anything about the realm of the Elderlings, it's like a whole, like, I don't even know how many books are in it, like 16, maybe more books within the whole series, but I wanted to start reading like the first trilogy within it. And this first book follows Fitz, who's a bastard to Prince Chivalry, who's like next in line to be king. And he basically, because he's a bastard and Prince Chivalry is not able to have like other children with his current wife, so it's kind of like frowned upon. So then Prince Chivalry like exiles himself, and he was supposed to be like a great king, like because he was like such a great prince and everything. So to take over the realm, everyone's like, oh, he's gonna be the great king, but then Fitz shows up and kind of makes him have to exile himself. So everybody in the keep is like, we hate you, Fitz. But then the king is like, you know what? I could use a bastard around here to be my assassin. And then he trains to become an assassin, basically. That's all I'll say. There's a lot going on within this because, like, you are following Fitz from, like, I think 6 years old or so to him being at least like early teenager ish area, maybe mid teens or so. So it is following a whole like lot of lifespan, and a lot of stuff does happen. It is a lot of like court politics, and there is like a magical element to it because there is like this magic called like the skill, but it's not super like high fantasy, I would say. And there are like kind of creatures because there's like something else going on in the background that I think goes to the overall arching of like the elderlings thing. But I really enjoyed this. I thought the beginning was a little slow, but like the last 100 pages, you really lock in, and it was like I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, the whole time. And so I gave it 4.75 stars. I cannot wait to read more of the series, and Fitz is my child, my baby, and I don't want to see him suffer anymore. But I know his life is about to get a million times harder than what it already is, and he doesn't deserve that. And then for her kids specifically, I did it for the Choose Your Party, and I did Rogue.
Nice. So you got one in that box. My
Mm-hmm.
next read was Sky Daddy by Kate Folk. I started this initially on my flight down to Ohio. Take a shot every time I say Ohio, but it's true. I read it on the airplane per Kristen's request. It's like, this would be a great airplane. No, it was not.
Well, you didn't read about the ending until you were already home.
But anyways, it's about a woman who just really, really loves planes in the most
Loves.
literal sense. The planes are not sentient. I think that's an
No.
important part to acknowledge that I don't think is a spoiler. This is literary fiction. And I'm going to leave you with that because you should go into this blindly. But I really enjoyed the writing style of this. It kind of gave me Night Bitch without kind of like the stream of consciousness. Like it felt more
Mm-hmm.
formatted and a little bit more refined. I felt like this had a really like it was just a good addition to the weird girl lit fic genre
Mm-hmm.
without being like
Linda
I don't like
is like,
Otessa Moshfegh. I don't know how to
yeah.
explain it. Like it's not like her work where it's apolitical. But this had social commentary in it to
Yes.
accompany, and the nuance of the characters was really beautiful, and I just appreciated exploring the different like relationship dynamics that Linda had with different people.
Yes.
And now I catch myself, I look up in the sky, I'm like, I wonder what Linda would think of this airplane.
Yeah.
And
I love Linda.
it is
She's just
just
like me for real.
it's a really great entry point into the literary fiction genre, and I think a lot of people will be able to relate to her character. It's not a 5-star read to me. I've yet to come across
Mm-hmm.
a lit fic novel that is 5 stars
Mm-hmm.
that has been written like nowadays. but it's a solid 4.
I
Very
think
solid
I
4.
give it somewhere around a 4, I think. I know I didn't give it 5 stars either, but I remember I was really, because I read it last year, and I was really impressed because I kind of read it as like a joke. Well, I got approved for the arc last year, and so I read it before it came out. But I was kind of like just picking it up because I was like, oh, this will be like a silly, goofy, like thing. And then towards like at the end of the book, why was I like tearing up? Because I was like, what the hell is this? Because I was like, this is actually, it's such a touching story, and I think it says a lot about like female friendships and a lot of other things, and I think it's a really great read, and I do recommend it. Maybe not
It's good.
the last half on the plane, but the first half I think you could read on a plane.
But I put this in my HRCYED familial terms because it has the
Mhm.
term daddy in the title. So that was able to be slotted in there very nice. I had some of these planned, so it's just fun to like be able to figure out where these are going on the bingo board.
The next book I read was The Odyssey by Homer, which was specifically the Emily Wilson's translation, and this is a tandem read of the physical and audio book. So I
I think I
read
have it
this
right in front of me.
obviously because the movie came out earlier this month, and so that's why I wanted to read the source material before I saw the movie. And if you don't know anything about the Odyssey, I don't know how you've gone 3,000 years without knowing what happens in the Odyssey, but you're basically following this guy named Odysseus. He was a general in the Trojan War, and then now he's trying to get back home. And it's apparently really hard for him to get back home. And so there's a lot of different things going on. I it's really hard to talk about this because like since it is like ancient literature, like the way stories are told that like 3,000 years ago is significantly different than how stories are told nowadays. And even like the movie and like the book took a lot of, I'll say, creative differences Christopher Nolan decided to do. I mean, I think the story itself, it obviously is like a blueprint for a lot of stories nowadays, a lot of modern adaptations. And I'm sure like 3,000 years ago, this was like life-changing story to hear. I thought it was fine. I didn't think the translation I thought was well done. It felt very like accessible. Like I feel like anybody could pick it up and read this specific translation. And I've never read any other translations before. This is like my first time reading the Odyssey specifically, and I actually like the history part at the beginning of it more than the full story, like the verse poetry and stuff too, because I also like am not like a big fan of like stories being told that way. But it was fine. I gave it 3.75 stars. I don't know if I really want to read the Iliad because I was like kind of toying with it, like reading the Iliad after reading the Odyssey, but I don't know if I really want to necessarily. I think I would be more open to reading like the history section at the beginning of the Iliad if they do that for whatever translation I pick up. And then just having that. Because I do think even the history section within like Emily Wilson's specific translation, like the first 100 pages, I think it kind of explains the entire plot to you, like every major story arc and everything like that. So you really don't necessarily need to read the whole verse, you know? And then for my HRCYED, I put it in the HRCYED matchup specifically. I put it in the non US UK Canadian because it's Greek, believe it or not, y'all. And then all the adaptations because it's obviously just got adapted into a film, and I saw the film. And I don't know if me and Mariah are going to talk about the film very much, but I will say I thought the movie was fine. I think the story from Homer is a little bit better because I think I only gave the movie like 3.5 stars. It's not Christopher Nolan's best, in my
I
opinion.
am going to withhold. I did not enjoy the movie. It was I I this episode would be like 20 million years long and it'd be very impossible for Kristen to edit. I just think that you're better off watching Where or Oh Brother Where Art Thou. If you want an adaptation, get that one. I think it's a little bit better,
I've
more
never seen it,
compelling of a
so
storyline, which you should now because I think
yeah,
you'll appreciate it.
maybe.
Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
fingers crossed. Speaking of adaptations, I read Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. I had watched this movie a very long time ago with my mom, but this I've never read the book. So this is a Depression era novel where
The
their
Great
main characters,
Depression.
Yeah, Great Depression. Where George and Lenny are in California and they're looking for work because finding work was very difficult during this time, and they just want to save up enough money to buy their own little plot of land and farm and be able to sustain themselves. Like essentially like the American dream of the time, especially given the material conditions. The writing of this book is perfection. I know I'm going to eat up East of Eden.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be my book, and I'll be really annoying about it. It does not read like a classic. It's very surprising how he's able to write. It's very refined and delicate with the social commentary and how it's like interwoven. It's very easy to extract and do a Marxist analysis of it because I think Steinbeck's politics were quite left wing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just as heartbroken reading this as I was watching the film as a child. So even though I knew what was going to happen, it still hit me. Like I was just left feeling gutted. And I gave it 5 stars. I really, really loved it. And I put this in my backlist authors because I did read The Pearl last year and I really enjoyed that one. So that's where it went in my HRCYED square.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited. I haven't read any Steinbeck. I mean, never like any of his novels. I read a play in high school though of his. I like part of it, I think, because I was in theater. So we like talked about Of Mice and Men, which I don't know. Didn't he write like the play adaptations too of his own work? That's what
He
I
did.
thought.
I
Yeah.
have. I think I have a copy, and I had picked it up at the used bookstore because I was like so excited because it was like a 2 book in one. It had like the one about war, something about moons. I can't remember what
Mm-hmm.
it's called, but it had that, and I went to read it, and it was in play format. And I have nothing against that, but I just wanted to read the original novel.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to read the play version because
Yeah.
now
That
I
makes
mean I can see it now but you know what I mean. Like I'm
yeah.
not opposed, but it
Well,
is
because I mean,
different.
we read RUR. I think was that not technically a play? Whenever we read that
Mhm.
for the podcast, so we're not against reading plays. They're really it's just it is different reading a play versus reading a novel too, because of the way that a play, even reading a play, is so different than even like seeing a play performed as well.
It takes a lot of imagination, and sometimes it's more than what I have the capacity for at the time, so
I
I
think it's
really have to be in the
less.
mood. No, okay, I mean it's just like it's a lot of dialogue, but you're not getting those descriptions of like your setting
Well, you
to
get
the
yeah, you
extent that it
do
can.
with the
They
stage
tell you, but
direction
it's
and
not like
everything. I think the stage direction.
emotion. But I'm also
I don't know.
not. I was never in theater, so I didn't
Maybe that's
have that
why.
connection to it.
I don't know. I mean, I do like reading plays sometimes. I haven't read any in a long time, but maybe I should
You know what you
read
should
some
read
more.
is I think it's called Slaughter City by Naomi Wallace, and it's about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire.
Oh, but
That's a
a
cool one.
play. Have you read it?
I have it. I have
Oh.
a physical copy of it on the shelf.
Well, the next book I read this month, which actually Mariah also did read this month, it is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, which I did a tandem read as the audiobook in the ebook. I was originally reading it with the physical book, but I don't know why that physical book was giving me a massive migraine. So I had to lock in and read it on the digital book. I guess it was the font or something, which we talk about this book very much in depth. We had a pretty long episode about it last episode that we just posted. But I won't go into as much detail about this book if you don't know anything, because then you could just watch that episode. But it's basically like the end of the world, and this woman is looking for her daughter. That's basically all. That's like one of the main perspectives that you follow, because like this is one of the most like complicated like sci-fi fantasy books we've ever read. And again, we go super in depth into it, and we still like, even though it's been a week since I read it, I'm still like, I still think about like the different scenes and like what does it mean, you know? So
I was thinking back. I was like, fuck. I wish we could have found a way to talk about it better, but I don't think we could have done it unless we had read all three. Which
yes,
honestly may have been the better choice, but it was a book club read. That was the
yes,
dilemma we were under. We couldn't just pause it and be like, okay, let's put this off for now and
mm-hmm.
like read
Which
all of them. So
yeah, which we
maybe
should
in
be
the
reviewing
future
more
we
of
won't
them.
do that.
Yeah, maybe no more series in the book club. But I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought you gave it something similar
I
to
ended up
some.
dropping my rating to 4.25 just because after we had our discussion, I did feel like I was left with a lot of unanswered kind of like plot holes and
But I
Just
imagine it's
confusion.
intentional
I
for the rest
hope.
of the series, because people just say it gets better and better. So that's what everyone says. So I'm very excited. And for her kids, I think we both put it in the numerical titles because
Yeah.
fifth is obviously 5, so that is a number in the title.
Per the rules, not us saying that obviously that word means something different, but they allow it
Yeah.
in the rules, so we're exploiting that on a technicality. I was nervous at first because like, does fifth count? And I had to like get into the website and like look
Oh
through
yeah,
all of
like
the rules
go
to
through the
triple check.
FAQ section.
There's a lot of rules here for this challenge, but
I mean, I
we're built
think
different.
the thing is also for this challenge, it's also like kind of like do it however you want. Like I don't the creator's not too like authoritarian about
No, this is
it.
just the autism in
Yeah.
our black and white mind thinking.
Yes.
Um, oops. My next book, which I have been getting a lot of heat on my review of this on TikTok and Instagram, is Capital from Zero: Reading Marx in the Age of Climate Catastrophe by Kohei Saito. He's a Japanese Marxologist, apparently is the term for it. Not a Marxist,
Marxologist.
Marxologist. I This supposed to be like a modern day breakdown of Capital. He's working on this big like mega project where they're going through a bunch of old Marx and Engels literature that never got published. So he's got the potential, right? So like the
Mm-hmm.
bits about Capital and his breakdown is basically like a modern edition of Wage, Labor, and Capital, or Value, Profit, and Price. Like it has those connections to contemporary things that I think people could like, and it's also written in a way that is quite accessible. The issue with this that I gave it a 2.5 star is that his understanding of like geopolitics and general like commentary on past and present socialist countries is incredibly problematic. He glazes social democracies as like the prime example of like worker solidarity because state capitalism bad, but if you're a Nordic country doing the Nordic model with imperialism, I guess that's fine. I don't really know. It was quite nonsensical if you're a Marxist because he doesn't utilize dialectical and historical materialism in his politics. So all I have to say is long live Lenin and Stalin and Mao and Ho Chi Minh and all the other beautiful leaders of the Marxist-Leninist revolutions that have been successful in the world. I gave it 2.5 stars. And I put this in my backlist authors because I did read Slow Down, the Degrowth Manifesto by him, and I loved it. This one, don't waste your time.
The next book I read was another nonfiction book. I read Moon Machine, The Rise of Spotify, and the Cost of the Perfect Playlist by Liz Pelly, which I picked this, I listened to it in an audiobook, and I read it because there was a YouTuber that read this book and like did like a whole like hour-long YouTube video about it, which I still haven't watched that yet, but now I can do that now that I finished this. But it's basically like an investigation into like Spotify's founding and like talking about like the different ways that like they use the algorithm to like change the way we listen to music and like all yada yada yada, like it's very in depth. It reminded me of like Filter World by Kyle Shakaya. I don't know if that's how you say his name, but I think it's like written in like very much the same way where it's like really dry and just like giving you the facts about the situation, which like I do think it was really informative. It was just a really 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 dull, and like I did not want to pick up reading it just because it was just like I felt like I was in like a history class for like a class, like a subject I did not care about. And I'm sure like if you're really into like Spotify, which I know like we have our podcast on Spotify, and if you're listening to this on Spotify, maybe you should pick this up. But I don't use Spotify anymore. I do use a different like platform, which is still like experience, like you still end up like we're all like affected by this pretty much if we listen to music, unless you're like specifically like getting curated music from someone specific, like a specific person or something like that, because of the way that algorithms have like changed the way that we consume most media now. Um it was, again, like I think it was really educational. I bet Mariah would love it, but I just couldn't get into it, and I'm sure it's great if you really love music and like really care about that stuff. I'm sure you'd love it. I give it 3 stars just because, like, again, like, it was very informative, but it's just like not what I would have chosen for myself to read if I knew that it was like that. And then for my her kid specifically, I put it in the choose your curriculum in the music class, basically.
Okay, I don't know if I would pick it up because I was never like a Spotify girly. That wasn't like a thing I understood. I was like Pandora was a thing growing
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
I
was
liked
big on
Pandora.
Pandora. The only reason why I
And
started using Spotify whenever I was a kid was because I like listening to albums. And so, like, unless you bought like albums on iTunes specifically, you cannot listen to an album all the way through. Really, once like CDs and stuff like got rid of, because like whenever I was in like middle school and high school, like CDs weren't really around anymore. We only had smartphones, and so like that's the only reason why I ended up getting drawn to Spotify was because I like if I found like an artist that I liked, I would listen to like their whole discography, and I'd want to listen to every
yeah,
album they made.
and like Apple
So
Music, I don't think was a thing to
no,
my
it wasn't.
memory.
That
I
was only the
remember paying
iTunes
99 cents
store.
a song, and then it went up
Yeah,
to like $1.29 a song
yeah,
because my dad
yeah,
would give me money if I babysat my brother.
yeah,
So I get $20 on iTunes, and it was like a
yeah.
really big thing.
Yeah, I got a lot of iTunes gift cards. There's like one time I went to like there's like this pizza place that was kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, and like I spent like my mom gave us like a $20 card or whatever to like use, and I spent my whole night at this damn games machine to get like a gift card out of it. It's like the one where you like put the key in and the key turns and brings the card down. I spent all my money on that, and guess what? I won that gift card. So
Did you? Good job.
yes. So I spent all my money on it, but it was worth it because like I loved like I would buy like I would it was a more financially that's one thing too where I think I got into listening to albums too because on iTunes I was like this is so stupid to pay $9.99 for one song whenever there's like if there's 15 songs of the album and you're paying $10 for the whole album, might as well pay for the whole album and just get the whole you get way more songs for the bang for your buck. So but that's also what like whenever I didn't have money for Spotify or like for Apple Music, I would have to go to Spotify to listen to an album.
Yeah.
But
I think
I
it's
don't
because
know.
I had an older sister that had LimeWire and would like rip me CDs. And that shit was cool. That was like, because my sisters are so much older
Yeah,
than me.
I was the oldest sister, so
You didn't have the skills.
but I don't know. I don't know if you would like it. I really do because it's not like I think if you like Filter World, you could like it, but I also don't know if it's just so specific to Spotify where I feel like Filter World's more of like the internet as a whole where this is just like specifically Spotify, which I do think it is. There is some interesting stuff that it does talk about too, like about how like the way that like there's like these ghost artists, like the lo-fi girl and like lo-fi beats and stuff, kind of being like ghost artists because people. When Spotify came around, now it was no longer people just listening to music because they wanted to listen to like a artist or something. They wanted it's like background noise, which I never really was into that. If I did listen to background noise, it would usually be a movie score at most. But I was not big into like background music where I think this more focuses on that like genre, which I don't really have any connection to either.
Not listening to Enya? You're not feeling whimsical?
No, I don't even know who
You
that
should. That's
is.
background. I told you about it.
I know, but I
Ah,
didn't. I still don't know. Like, I did not know who
it's
that
like
is when you
Lord of
said
the
it.
Rings vibes.
No, I don't
But you
listen to
haven't
that.
watched Lord of the Rings. Ugh, it's
No,
just such a
but
damn shame.
I like my music to have words that I can sing along to.
I'm
That's
just
what
here
I
for
like
a
in my
vibe.
music. No, I like words in my songs. Like that is one thing I really don't like listening to background music. Really, I like words in my music.
Let me get into the next one. I think you would like this. I think you should add it to your October or spooky season. It's a
Oh yeah,
nonfiction book. It's called Don't Go There, a tour of the world's most sinister spots by J.W. Oker. This is like an investigation into the world's most creepy and weird places and like cryptids. So it starts off talking about like the Jersey Devil, which I had not heard about until Kristen had brought it up a couple months ago. I think you talked about the Jersey Devil, and I was like, I don't know what the hell that is. I don't know
that's
what the context of the conversation was, but there's a bunch like different
yeah.
locations around
There's
the
a lot of
world
cryptids over
and in
here.
the U.S. too.
Yeah,
Talk about Bigfoots and whatnot, and it was very
Mothman.
fun, very morbid at times. It was
Did it
very
talk about
interesting.
Waverly Sanatorium at all?
It didn't talk about sanatoriums. It was more like
But
geography places,
but
less like haunted mansion type
well, because the
thing.
Waverly Sanatorium is supposed to be like the most haunted place in the world or in the United States.
Hopefully, the author, I think, would do a really good job of doing more. I was very happy with it. I thought it was really nice that the author paid attention to like indigenous land.
Mm-hmm.
Um, throughout parts of it, which was really cool. You don't see that very often. All in all, I gave it like it's a solid 4-star read. It's very much like History Channel, Discovery Channel, like something you'd like listen to in the background as a kid and do homework because your parents would let it be on because it was
Mm-hmm.
informational. I liked it. I thought it was fun. But I put it in my Herkid Shiritori, which means that the last letter I'm going to have to put at the for the next title in that section. If you have confusion, look at the thing. So the last
You could
letter
have
is an
put it
S,
in,
but it could be an E.
or
I
you
don't
could put
know.
it in if you end up needing to do something else for the Shiratori. I think you could probably put that in like choose your curriculum geography,
Could
like
be.
geography class.
Definitely. I don't know.
Because
Right now, that's kind of where it's sitting because I was like, I think I can find a book with an S title,
well, but I
and
feel
that's
like
easy.
Shiratori might be more last minute sort of thing because I feel like you're gonna need to. You know what I'm saying? Where shoving
That's
that
why I
in would
just
be.
put one in there. I was like, I'm just gonna throw one in. So we'll
And
see.
then the last book I read in the month of July, I got approved for the arc of this, Victorious by V.E. Schwab, which this is the third villains book. And if you earlier, I think it was it last month, I guess I read the first two. I did a reread. If you know anything about me, I love Vicious by V. Schwab. That is it was one of my favorite reads of last year. I really enjoyed it. The second one, I was so on it. I didn't think it was the worst thing in the world. I thought it was fine for what it was. I didn't necessarily think it was necessary. This third book, I could go on a whole rant. This is going to be a waste of paper once it gets printed out. I'm sorry. um, I think I
I'm
think the
sad.
first
Hold
I
on.
think the first book should just be a standalone, which I do think even whenever I read the second book, I was like this is not really necessary. But I do think the second like comparing the second book and the third book, it's like apples and oranges. That book that could be a Nobel Peace Prize winner compared to this book because the way this book is, the only thing that's good about this book is literally just Victor, Sydney and Mitch, and it's just because their character dynamics are continuing from the first book to this book. That's literally the only relevant reason to read this. Everything else is just like so stupid. I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to say anything because obviously the book isn't out yet either, but like, I just think it felt like a lot of like nothing new really happened, in my opinion, in this book that was like needed to be told. Like, there's an ending which is different than what there was, where I do think like the first two books are kind of left open ended, but I think they're left open ended in like a good way where you can feel comfortable with however you view the ending of these characters. Where this one really does like, I mean, the story's finished. Like, I don't think if she makes another book, like she is definitely like money hungry, and that's what this one felt like to me. So I think if you love Vicious, if you've only read Vicious, don't read any of the other two. Like I really do think that like Vicious should just be as it is. I will recommend people to read Vicious and Vicious only. Do not. There's no reason the series does not exist in my mind.
That's such a bummer. You were so excited
Yeah,
to
what
get
I mean,
that
like
too.
I was thinking, like whenever I got it, I kind of like I was not necessarily like I was like, oh, this could be like a really satisfying thing to happen within the story because I do love like all of the characters within the story. I do think like Victor, he is one of my favorite like literary characters. Victor Vale, he is so cool. That's the only blonde man that's I think should be allowed to exist. But I think his character is so unique and fun, and I think he does such a great job of being like an anti-hero, especially within the first book, which is like why it's like called the villains duology because like it is like X-Men kind of where it's like Professor X versus like Magneto, where what makes Magneto such a good character is because his ideals are not too far off. Like I'm a Magneto defender till the day I die. So like I do think like that is done so well in the first book, and then it just like falls apart. And V. Schwab, like I know her last book too. I think was it Bury Our Bones in Midnight Soil was her last book. I know that book
I think
was really
so.
unpopular too. Like everyone hated that. So I don't know what's going on with her, but she needs to lock in.
We should just take a break from writing.
Maybe, I don't know. I like it is disappointing, but I do think I still like. I think you should read Vicious. I want Tyler to read Vicious. Like I think everyone should read Vicious. Do not read any other ones though. Pretend it ends there. That's my.
Where'd you put it in your Herkin?
Oh, I put it as backlist author
Okay.
because
I'm
obviously
scared.
I've read V. Schwab before.
That's a fair point. Fair place to place it. Fair. I don't know where I was going with that. I thought I was going to use a different descriptor. Okay. Next on my list is The Poisoner by Ivy Ophelia. Funny enough, Kristen was like, "You should read this for your next garbage read," and I was already like 80 pages into it, and I was like, "I'm already ahead of you."
The only reason why is because it was whenever I was going through NetGalley, there was like I think the third book is supposed to be coming out soon or something, because it was like called like The Cannibals or something like that, and I was like, what the hell is this? So I looked it up on Goodreads and I saw it was part of the series, and then I was like reading the description of it. I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I'm sending it to Mariah.
I remember people talking about it forever ago. I've had it because it was on KU in my KU section on my Kindle for the longest time, and I finished up a bunch of other little books. I was like, okay, this is gonna be my nighttime read, and then I locked in. I don't know. I thought it was quite enjoyable. It's something a little bit different than I was reading. It's like a historical supernatural romance novel about a girl who inherits her father's apothecary and starts bringing up poisons to give to women to kill the evil men in their life. It's I mean, it seems like period accurate. I don't know. But the vampire, he gets really obsessed and he's very toxic. I was very surprised. The ending of this book completely blindsided me. I did not anticipate it. This is not for if you like don't like romances
Because
or
it's like a dark romance, technically, isn't it, too?
I think so. Very surprised. This is like one of those ones I would probably recommend though. Like of all the ones that I have read, this is the better one. I give it a 3.75 right now. Like it worked for me. I don't think it's going to work for everyone, but I put it in my choose your party rogue assassin because she's poisoning people. I don't know. I did in my head I was like she's a poisoner, but then also I don't know.
But I guess if you're mixing potions, isn't that's probably something.
I think so. I thought it's going to be either that or it can update it. I don't know. I don't play D&D. That's what I got for you. Next on my list, I have been waiting to talk to you about this one because I have not. So take a seat, get a drink.
I'm sad.
You're here. You're sad. Okay. So, Love at First Prompt by Bridget Todd. This was on Libro FM, and I was like, okay, cool, because I already finished Love Machines by James Muldoon, and I really, really like that one. He also wrote Feeding the Machine, which you should read. It's really solid, very dense book. But this is about AI and the future of intimacy, which is like the rest of the title, as told by the author and other people who had like experiences and like different people who are like expertise in the industry, I guess. Okay, one, this is audiobook exclusive. Oh. There is no physical copy of this book, which I find really troublesome because one, I think it's inaccessible for folks that cannot hear. Yes. Also, I can't easily find the source material and you can't annotate. Like, I guess I could sit down and take notes. I don't know. It's really weird.
That's really weird.
The author is also like a podcaster. So the parts in like a book where you would hear like or you'd see quotes are directly from the interview that the author had with them, like on their podcast or maybe not. I don't listen to their podcast, so I don't know. Oh. So there is that element, and I thought she's just really too sympathetic to people that are using AI, and she kind of like misuses some of the stats or sources in really odd ways. Like it just felt like.
Does it talk about that one lady that's like writing that's dating the octopus AI and like she's like writing romance books with her octopus AI boyfriend?
No, I thought she was going to, but she didn't. She did talk about that one guy who had that was like all over the news. Remember where he was like he had an
That
AI
left his
girlfriend and
wife.
proposed to it, and like apparently
Oh,
that was a lie. He didn't actually leave his girlfriend, and like the proposal was actually like a really stupid like proposal. So like the media did frame it weird, but that guy is like he says like I'm a capitalist and I support companies' ability to like do
what?
all this stuff because there's like some conversation about like safety with using these things because you're putting so much information into them, so like the FBI and shit could like extract it. So there was some good points that were made, but that guy was like weird. He's like I don't, because he started using social media for politics, and he's like it everyone's just performative and they don't actually know anything. So now I use it, my AI. He doesn't use the AI girlfriend, but he's like I use it for social media for when I need to vent. So rather than,
What?
because it's better instead of being in a bubble.
Is that not just putting
What?
you in another bubble? Well, because like I know there's
Fuck
so
if
much
I know.
so much controversy too, because there's been like another person that's like just like committed suicide because of like these AI chatbots too, because they like feed into your fantasies so much rather than like I think it's so weird that they're trying to like humanize these robots too, like these chatbots and stuff. Like I hate that. Like just give me the fact. Like I think AI could be used in a beneficial way if it was actually just like giving you the facts without like trying to be like a human being. I think it's promoting isolation.
Oh, speaking of isolation, right? One of the stats that it's not even like a proper stat. There's like this Reddit subreddit, right, that has like 30,000 people in it. It's called like, it's something about my AI boyfriend, and it's all these people in it, and like they're aware. I guess a lot of them are aware that it is not real, it is a computer. But to show that they're not actually alienating themselves, they're like, well, there's this Reddit thing and they're all talking to each other. So they're actually not alienated or isolated because there's a Reddit page. And I was like, but that's not how you make
That's
that assessment, because you don't actually know how many people, because that's suggesting that everybody that has an AI boyfriend would be in that Reddit thing when it's just, she admits, she does say like earlier, is like there's no definitive number on how many people are using it. So you can't make
and
that like
just because somebody's in that subreddit too doesn't necessarily mean that they're posting within that subreddit. You know what I'm saying? Like how many? That's so weird.
it's a very odd, I feel weird calling this a book. I very seldom, and I'm an audiobook consumer, calling this a book. It was really weird. You're better off listening to the James Muldoon one. It's just too sympathetic, and it doesn't push back against it, and there really wasn't any like meaningful or substantive like critique of the machines outside of like potential like information shit
Mm-hmm.
that would get leaked, and that was kind of the extent. So I don't recommend it. I gave it 2.25 stars, and I put it in the not so secret prompt uh or not so secret prompts anymore section of the HRCYED. Last name is a first name because Todd is a first name, so that is where I put it, which I thought was quite clever. And then the only other thing I did was read One Piece because I finally got physical copies. They were on sale online, so I got a couple of them. They're on Nimbuses, so they're nice and big. So I have like 9 volumes, and I'm still in Water 7. But now I'm like catching up. I'm actively catching up, and like the world government is like looking for these ancient weapons, aka like atomic bombs, and I think they're going to use it to try to like control the pirates. It's really interesting. Like the politics are developing very nicely with the world government, and they're just pieces of shit. And I'm like, wow, this is so real. There's like CIA in this, and I'm like, wow, they would do this. They would like manufacture consent from the masses. Fantastic. That's it. That's all I have for you. Did you DNF anything this month?
I did not.
Me neither. Wow, look at us. We're
Finishing
finishers.
everything we read. Well, I think you should probably go first with your currently reading because you also have more currently readings than I do.
I do. So I'm reading The Arachnid by Ivy Ophelia. That's just my nighttime read. I'm 10% in. Very different from the first one. And so far, like, I mean, I'm enjoying it about the same.
Is
It's
it an
not
interconnected standalone or is it like same girl?
same girl, but it's
Oh,
different. Like, there is like progression in the story. Interesting. I was
okay.
not expecting that. Oh, I'm also reading Girls Girl, which I technically just finished right before coming on here by Sonia Feldman. She was another author that was at the Columbus, Ohio Book Festival. But at the time of filling out my document, or my portion of this document, I was at 72%. And I put, she's just like me for real. But it really does kind of like encapsulate navigating like intimacy and girlhood as a teenager. And it's just like interesting, like that it's like a coming of age story, but it feels very coming of age, like the very
Mm-hmm.
beginning of like when you're a teenage girl trying to like have friendships. I don't know. I think it'll ring very true for a lot of people, and I think it might end up being like a 4.5 star novel as of the time that I wrote this. So you'll have to wait till next month, or I'll post something about it.
If you catch up, I know you're a little behind on your reviews.
Yeah.
Um, well, one of the books I'm currently reading right now, in audiobook format, is Pandora's Jar: Women in the Greek Myths by Natalie Haynes. So Natalie Haynes is like a stand-up comedian. She wrote, you'll probably recognize her other books, Stoneblind, and there is another one. She's wrote a couple of like the popular like book talk Greek retellings. I'll show you the cover of the one that you would recognize, I would think.
You think about like Hungerstone?
No.
Stone lined. Is that
It's
about
got like
Medusa?
Medusa on the cover. This book.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
I mean, it's pretty popular. It's got almost 100,000
Wow.
reviews on Goodreads. And then her most popular one, this one is way closer. This one's at 97,000. 1,000 ships.
I haven't seen that one either.
These are two fiction, like Greek retellings or whatever. But she wrote a nonfiction book, which is Women in Greek Myths, which, I mean, it's nonfiction in the sense that it's talking about the different women in like the Greek myths, and like what their utility of whatever story that they were in, and then like how a lot of like men, because men were the ones like writing down myths and telling myths back in like BCE and like early times, and even like current like pretty modern translations and stuff, they all are obviously very male focused. So she kind of just talks about a lot of the different women. So like she talks about Pandora and stuff, because like in the way that Pandora is like villainized a lot in her story, because like obviously you think that she opened the box to release all the bad in the world, but then she talks about like why are none of the gods ever like the male gods specifically that created her, and that the reason why she was sent was because Prometheus stole fire from the gods to give it to the humans, and why is she the one held responsible whenever she was made specifically because of that. It talks about Jocasta, which I didn't even know her name, which I bet you probably don't even recognize that name either. It's Oedipus's mother, also his wife, because you know like the story of Oedipus where he kills his dad and then ends up marrying his mother, sort of thing, which uh I think it's so telling that like obviously people recognize like Oedipus' name, the Oedipus complex, but then nobody even knows like his mother, which is entirely why the story has even happened to in the first place. And it talks about like her perspective and stuff like that. That was through the story. She does obviously it has a chapter on Medusa, and then Helen of Troy is the ones that I've also listened to so far. It's really nice because like each chapter is about like an hour or so longish, and it just like talks about like the women within that story and how sexist typically the story is, and how it can kind of be reframed into modern ways of looking at it and stuff. I really like it. Obviously, I was really, really big into Greek mythology growing up. And then just reading the Odyssey kind of has like reignited that. So I'm really much enjoying this. And I think it could easily be a 5 star for me, because like it is giving more perspectives too that I would never even thought of growing up.
Do you think you're gonna end up reading Circe soon?
I don't know if I'll read Cersei soon. I think I'm more interested in reading Natalie Haynes's fiction books more than I am Madeline Miller, just because Song of Achilles was not necessarily my favorite book ever. And so I'd be more interested. And also, I don't necessarily like Cersei's never been a god that interests me, where I was more interested in like Medusa specifically. And since she has the Medusa book, I'm more drawn to that. I mean, I have Medusa tattooed on my leg too.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah.
I feel like you should.
So that's why I think I'm more drawn to that story. But I probably will read Cersei at some point in my life.
Just let me know so I can hop on the bandwagon. I'm also still working my way through the Odyssey by Homer, the same edition that Kristen read, but I didn't finish it before the movie. I was trying. I originally had to read it. In high school. It was my freshman year of high school, like very beginning. They should not be having 14-year-olds read this shit because not
No.
on like some puritanical basis. This shit was hard as fuck. That was hard.
Yeah.
Because even as an adult, I'm like, why? I don't know.
I don't
what
understand
our
the
English
utility.
teacher was on.
I do not understand the utility of having a teenager read it, to be honest.
No, because we read
no
The Little
offense.
Prince and that makes sense.
Yeah.
I read that again and I was like, okay, that makes sense. The Odyssey? And we were like doing analysis as like we were going through it. It was like a really big portion.
Low key, in my opinion too, I think the Odyssey is kind of overhyped. The book and the and the movie.
I'm like halfway through though, so I'm gonna finish it. My goal is to finish it this week. That's it. That's all I got for that.
Okay, so my second currently reading, it's The Secret World of Briar Rose by Sydney Pham. So apparently I saw this book pop up on my For You page. So Sydney Pham is apparently a booktuber. I don't follow her, know nothing about her, didn't even know like anything about her. But this book interests me
like,
because
wait, hold on. Sydney Pham, like Haley Pham?
No, I think there's no relation.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure not related at all though. Like I just think they both happen to have Pham in their last names or something. I don't know. But this is it's a Sleeping Beauty retelling, obviously Briar Rose. But it's supposed to be about like escapism, grief, and then suicidal ideation. It's like what they said, and it's a young adult book and it's queer. And so I was like, this is all like very interesting to me. So that's why like I heard all those things and I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this. And then it's kind of gaining speed right now, like it's kind of picking up popularity, I'm sure, because one, she's a booktuber, and then it's also kind of like hitting the book talk sphere. I'm only like 5% into it, so I really don't have all that much of an opinion yet. It's written, I don't want to say badly, it's just like I heard the beginning, it's not very dialogue heavy. It's kind of just like vibes and like world building, and like nothing's like there's stuff happening, but it's really weird like the way that it's written. Like it's not like there's no characters really talking to each other, which and like I don't know. It's hopefully next month I can talk about it better because I don't even know what's going on. But because I saw all of those things that I was like suicidal ideation and queer, sign me up, just like me for real. And then I was like, oh, and then it's also, since the Sleeping Beauty retelling, I could easily fit this into HRCYED because there's a whole remix section. So I was like, well, this will be hopefully easy to pick up within that. So, but I don't know. It's unique so far. I will say that. Like, it doesn't feel like anything I read, which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. It's too early to tell.
That is so interesting. You have to let me know.
Because it's YA too, so I'm like, how far can it go into like suicidal ideation and stuff, you know? Like that's which it is like about war and stuff, so I guess it's like kind of the relationship. I don't know. We'll see next month. You'll find out.
If you've read it, put your opinions down in the comments below. Okay, so this last one, I don't even know how much of this I'm going to be able to like. That's going to be kept in this portion because Kristen might have to edit it out because I don't know if it'll make it. I don't know. Hold on. Okay, so
what?
The book in question, it may get flagged. So if not, there might be gaps here with how much I can talk about. I don't know what YouTube's going to filter out, but it's called The Light of Days: The Untold Story of Women's Resistance Fighters in Hitler's Ghettos by Judy Battalion. I am a little bit further. I have 8% in here, but I was listening to it today and I got a little bit further because I have it as an audiobook. This was recommended to me by my friend on Book Talk Ashura because it's supposed to be like they kill anything that moves vibes. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting, but it's about like all these like women resistance fighters resisting like fascism directly in Nazi Germany. I did get some excerpts that let me say my piece about it. There is some parts about like the Zionist socialist parties of the time. This is pre-Nakba, but it is post the Havara agreement, so there hasn't been a full-blown Nakba that has happened. So like there was a lot of like Zionism in these socialist movements, and like they wanted to make like kibbutz in Palestine, and the author does say Palestine, but I don't know if she's saying that based on technicality or because I don't really know what's going on with the politics of that, but I trust my friend with this. So I don't know what my rating is going to be. I have to read you a quote because this quote sold me on it, because I was like, what the fuck? Right? Because this is about, it follows a lot of different women in this, but one of the women's name is Bella, and it says one of Bella's supervisors, Arna Cook, was a short, angry, and cruel. She insisted that Bella clean her room, deliver coffee, and shine her boots. One morning, Bella came in to perform her duties, and Arna did not hear her enter. Bella saw Arna lying on the bed with her legs splayed wide, having her German shepherd. Bella shut the door and fled, fearing that if she'd been caught, she would have been killed. Oh,
what the?
I saw that and I was like, they were fucking, the Nazis were fucking weird. Like, is that not nuts? I don't know if that's gonna make it into this, but that's why I was like, I have to tell you. And there's a lot of other really horrible things that happen that is like very much what is happening to Palestinians right now, or has happened. Like the parallels between the two are crazy. I wonder why. But that, I read that and I was like, I gotta tell Kristen.
What the hell?
Look at the cover. I would have never initially picked up the cover of this book. This might go into that category of like the covers that you wouldn't normally pick up. Because it's just like a very inconspicuous cover. Like there's nothing crazy about it.
This one?
Like it's just, she's just standing there. Like it's just like there's nothing special about it. You would not expect that to be
God, it's so long.
Yeah, it's a really long audiobook too, but I don't know, depending on how the politics end up going,
then you can, whether or not you fully recommend it.
Yeah.
That's disturbing.
That's crazy.
Actually disturbing.
I think a lot of extreme horror splatterpunk need to get into reading like nonfiction. Like,
what the?
If you want to read something
Please don't
fucked up.
If somebody puts that in their book, I'm DNFing that book. I'm throwing it out the window.
No,
what the
because
hell?
I mean, like, you can like read about like fake shit all the time, but this is real shit that happened to real
horrifying.
people. And it shapes you as a person when you're reading about these, because you don't like, it's different. There's no escapism. Like you are fully engaged in your society. So I honestly think that if you're somebody that's into that, you should be reading about U.S. interventionism and fascism and whatnot, because like you're gonna learn a lot,
horrifying.
and it'll give you that same feeling of revulsion. But it's nonfiction.
So you're actually learning.
That's all I got for you today.
Yep. Well. I guess what we have next on the podcast, well, because what I thought was going to win won. So is that gonna be our next review?
Yes.
Will be The Poet Empress by, is it Shen Tao?
I believe that sounds right.
Which this book has really high ratings, 4.40, with 36,000 ratings right now, and I think it's just going up and up and up right now. You know, like
it better knock my socks off.
I don't know. Everybody's loving it.
Hopes.
Everybody's loving it. It's a relatively new book. Like we're actually kind of hitting something. It came out earlier this year, so we're kind of on striking something while the iron's a little hot, you know. And then our book club is reading The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling.
Yeah.
I can't believe you picked up a physical copy.
I try to pick up physical copies of the book club books for the Instagram.
Scares me.
No, I'm just kidding. I did want to read this outside. I didn't just want to read it on my Kindle. I just wanted a physical copy of it.
This book scares me.
Okay, yeah, because it did say that it was supposed to be like Gideon the Ninth and something else, and I tried to read Gideon the Ninth like 3 different times. I Kristen, maybe you should try to read Gideon the Ninth.
I think I read like a chapter of it one time, and I was like, okay, but I was like not in the mood to read it, so
I just couldn't get past Gideon's character. Like, I did not like her as a character, and I think that this better be. She's like gonna be a nun. It's about a nun that turns sorceress, and there's cannibalism in it.
I don't know. And I think, is that it for book reviews this month?
I believe that's all I have. I don't have anything else. I gotta take a picture of the stack of books for you for the thumbnail. Yes. It's all lies. Everything's fake. We didn't actually read anything. Sorry.
Well, I guess other than that, if you're on YouTube, you can go like the video or subscribe. Or if you're anywhere else, you can rate the podcast. I think you can still like the podcast or whatever it is you do. Comment. Let us know what you read this past month. If you want us to know and you think we should read it, we take suggestions all the time. Other than that, thank you